Look, you're already ahead of 99% of people if you clicked on this video trying to improve your communication skills, wanting to learn how to improve your communication skills. It's statistically proven that those who are better at communicating, they get better job opportunities, they get more money, and they have higher quality women that are more attracted to them. Now, if you look at people under the age of 30, you'll notice that there's going to be a supply and demand issue, right? There's a huge demand for communicators, but not a lot of supply. And when there's a lot of supply, you don't need to be the best. You just need to be good enough, right? So you'd be pretty dumb to click off this video just because it literally could save the rest of your life. Being a good communicator is almost equivalent to being the 6'3" handsome man in our generation today. So let me show you how to do it. But before I show you how to do it, let me tell you a story, right? So when I was in school, when I was in college, I was very shy. I didn't necessarily like to speak to people, didn't necessarily have the best communication skills at all. Really had the worst communication skills. I also didn't look the part either, so that didn't help. So I would constantly be seeing people do better than me in different areas of life. And I always wondered why. I had the drive, I had the energy, and I had the desire, but I could never do it, right? And it all came to a screeching halt. That entire thought process came to a screeching halt when I attended my first FME class. FME is Foundational Management and Entrepreneurship. I went to a business school. This class taught us about entrepreneurship. Now, the reason why this is important is because this class taught me about the power of communication. And the reason for that is because when there was this kid, I don't understand why, this scrawny kid didn't look the part at all, right? Didn't wear clothes that flashed around that showed that he was of any importance whatsoever. But the way that he communicated to other people around, to the professors, to the students around, sparked my interest. You see, I noticed when we were all presenting ourselves, when we were presenting our names, he was very articulate. He was very persuasive, and people wanted to know more about him. People were like, he wasn't some kid who did anything crazy or had some crazy accomplishments. He's a regular kid. But he was able to grasp the attention of so many people and grasp the interest of these professors that, honestly, I needed the grades because I was playing basketball at the time. I needed to be able to make it in college. I needed to be able to make sure that my degree was going to be handed to me, right? So this class was a foundational class. I started to notice him being able to get so many shortcuts, not having to turn in assignments because he knew how to communicate with professors, knew how to communicate his value, was able to round up the troops to have a good team around him. I was actually a part of his team. I'm not going to say his name, but I was a part of his team. And I saw how well he was a communicator. He was the leader of that group. I wasn't envious of him, but I definitely looked up to him because everyone chose him as a leader. Everyone innately said he's going to be the CEO of this company. See, in FME, we all had to start our own businesses. We all had to, create our own products and try to sell the products locally. And there were people who could basically create their own teams. Anybody could create their team, but people had to vote to be able to join this person's team. And I remember I tried to create my own team and it didn't work. Nobody wanted to work with me, right? Because I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to communicate the value I would provide. I didn't know how to communicate my ideas. But this kid knew how to communicate his ideas so well that the professors were impressed and they wanted to work with him. So I started to study him. I started to study how he moved, how he talked, what words he used, how his expressions were, why were people so captivated by him? Why was I captivated by him? I used to go to parties with him. I would see how he talked to girls. He got a bunch of girls. And again, he didn't look like anybody. He was a very average looking guy. Wasn't even tall. It's probably around 5'8", 5'9". But everybody wanted to speak to him. He made a lot of friends, and he also made a lot of money. He got the internships that everybody wanted. In his interviews, he aced every single interview. Every professor gave him crazy great, and he didn't put in that much more work because I worked with him as well. Even in the group, he didn't put in a ton of legwork. He wasn't the guy that was on the Excel sheets for the financial reports. He was the guy who was pitching. He was the guy every meeting that we had for our business. He was the guy that was in front, that was talking, that was captivating the professors, that was literally leading the group. Everybody was so enthusiastic to work with him. And I wanted that. I wanted that. And I finally understood the missing link to everything that I wanted, the social currency that I wanted, right? The women that I wanted, the opportunities that I wanted, all came down to communication. So I literally decided from that day forward that my communication skills would literally skyrocket to an all-time high. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. So enough of this story. Hope that you stayed long enough to hear this story. But we're going to figure out, or we're going to teach you how to communicate like a boss. Communicate like a boss. I'm going to make this extremely short. Wow, these S's are interesting. We're going to make this extremely short because you just need to know the foundations. Once you know the foundations, you can build on top of that. But how do you communicate like a boss, right? This is going to be extremely important because bosses know how to influence people. Bosses know how to be leaders. Bosses get things done. Bosses get their way in life. That is why they're the boss, whether you like them or not. But you tend to like them if they're really good bosses because they know how to persuade you. So I'm going to teach you how to articulate. The first thing you need to understand that I realized is, number one, you need to read more books. I got to write this darker for you. You need to read more books. See, what I noticed from anybody who knows how to communicate, they have a very interesting diction. They have a very interesting choice of vocabulary. They know how to string words together where it sounds very eloquent, where it sounds almost poetic, right? And the reason they know how to do this is because they read books. They read a lot of different books. They read books about history. They read books about even business, if that's what you're interested in. They read books about psychology. They read books about philosophy. Read more books. That's what I started to do because I didn't read books before that. I used to, but I didn't read enough books. I was so interested in playing sports. I was so interested in basketball that literally I didn't even have the desire to read. But what I realized was when you read more books, you're going to start increasing or expanding your vocabulary. You're going to start to be able to pull words from your mind that you didn't even think you knew due to the fact that you read the books. And on top of that, it's not that you need to go on dictionary.com and learn every word. You're going to understand the context of those words based on the books that you read. Because you're so captivated by the story, you're going to now be able to understand the meaning of those words in speech. And you're going to be able to utilize that speech. So within reading more books, right, let's go into a subtopic. What I learned is speed reading is great to be able to just be able to take in as much information as possible, as fast as possible. But what you need to start doing is you actually need to start reading in your head with your voice. This is what helped me that I didn't realize until I started to analyze it. Read in your voice. Read with your voice in your head, right? You want to be able to read with your voice in your head. This goes against a lot of the productivity speed reading guys because everybody tells you that you need to be able to skim and find information. You're not reading right now to find information. You're reading with the purpose of communicating better. So to be able to communicate better, you need to be able to read with the voice in your head because that's going to train you on speaking without you even having to speak. See, it's sensory, right? So your mind won't really know whether you're talking out loud or not. It's just going to know that there are words being strung together and you're forming sentences, not knowing that you're literally reading with the voice in your head. This helped me a ton, right? You have to understand how to read with your voice in your head. The second thing, right? Read books from authors that you like. Or love. Read books from authors that you love, because it's going to make you more enthusiastic in the books that you read, right? And you're also going to be able to adopt a lot of their vocabulary, a lot of their manners of speech in the books that they read by you actually reading it. So always find authors that you love. One author that I love the most is Robert Greene. If you've ever seen authors who are very prolific, they know how to speak in public. They know how to communicate to other people because they write. That leads to my next point. Write more. See, we live in the digital age where all we do is communicate through video. We consume videos, we consume a lot of content, but we don't produce enough. See, some of the best communicators are some of the best writers. So you need to write more, and that goes into a subtopic of writing more. What does that mean? Journal at least 30 minutes a day. You want to be able to journal at least 30 minutes a day. The reason why you want to journal 30 minutes every day is because when you start journaling, you're actually going to find that you can write down your thoughts. And the more you write down your thoughts, the more that they'll actually be able to be structured in your brain. Because a lot of the reason why people can't communicate very well or clearly at least is because a lot of their thoughts are jumbled up. See, writing allows for your thoughts to be structured, right? You structure your thoughts and you produce it through writing. Writing is just another form of speaking. So the more that you write, start off with journaling, the more that your thoughts will be structured and the better it is that you'll be able to communicate off the whim. I don't need scripts. And the reason for that is because I can structure my thoughts in a way and communicate them in a way that you understand, that I understand, that it flows effortlessly. So you want to be able to journal at least 30 minutes a day. Journal about your life, journal about your thoughts, journal about what you've learned from what you've read, or you've learned or observed in society, in your day-to-day that you move around. But either way, write more, right? Write. Journal 30 minutes a day. That's all you need to do. Right? Now, the third thing you need to do. Is you need to practice. All right? Practice. Most people don't know how to communicate because they just never tried to communicate. Right? They always try to avoid it, right? A lot of people have anxiety around communicating. They don't want to talk to people. Everyone's like, I don't like talking to people. Listen, I didn't like talking to people either when I went to college. But when I realized that it was a superpower, and I realized that once I know how to speak to people, I can get my way, I can make more money, I can make more quality friendships, I can have better relationships with women, I wanted to practice. So how do you practice speaking? First things first, subtopic. Remove the headphones. Remove the headphones. So what does removing the headphones mean? This means that everywhere you go, I used to do this a lot. When I used to go grocery shopping on my own, or I used to go somewhere, I used to always have headphones in. I always wanted to listen to music or listen to an audiobook or something along those lines. Remove the headphones. Start to absorb reality. Start to absorb what's around you. Anybody that goes up to you, speak to them. All right, that's B. Speak to everybody. The cashier that gives you the amount that you owe that you need to pay, right? Talk to the cashier. Have a casual conversation with them. Ask them how their day is going, all right? Ask them what they're doing. Again, a key to communication, by the way, curiosity. Be curious about other people. Ask them about themselves. That way you can start the dialogue. This is what breaks the ice when it comes to one-on-one communication. Ask about them. Ask about how their day's going. Ask them why they moved there. Ask them questions about them. What's their aspirations? You see, nobody asks these questions. And people are going to appreciate the fact that you're asking them more about themselves. And this is going to give you the practice to be able to improve your communication, because you're now going to be able to string dialogues together with people to then be able to create scenarios where you're forced to communicate. Do this even if you're in college, if you're in the workforce. Talk to people about their lives. Ask them about them. Don't just talk at people, talk with people, because they're going to ask you questions back, especially if they're interested in you. Right? So always be able to speak to everybody that you find and start off with them. Always be curious about the other person. That's very important, this practice thing, right? The next, record yourself. Always record yourself. Record yourself on video. You don't even need to post it. Just record yourself speaking and start to analyze what you do, right? While you practice, you're going to analyze, right? Analyze your recordings. There's nothing worse than going back and listening to how you spoke. And that's a good thing, because if you cringe at you speaking in front of the camera, that means you have a lot of work to do, which means you have to expose yourself consistently to you speaking in front of the camera and critique yourself. See the point. Start to analyze how you actually speak. Start to analyze how you present yourself on camera, because we live in the digital age, right? Living in the digital age means that everything is going to be done digitally. Your Zoom calls that you have at work, people that you connect with online, you're going to have to speak to them on FaceTime when you speak to people. By the phone, right? You're going to need to analyze your recording of how you present yourself, how your words are articulated, and what you do, right? So make sure that you analyze your recording. Look at the body language. Look at how you're speaking. Look at the tones that you use to make points. Just record yourself telling a story, kind of like what I did in the very beginning. Record yourself telling a story and start to analyze how interesting that story is. How can you make that story more interesting? What about this was not interesting? Right? Do this on a regular basis. And if you're interested, go on YouTube, post YouTube videos and analyze those YouTube videos. I do this with the group that I have. So I have a Conquer YouTube group where I literally help them with their communication skills by analyzing their videos with them live in a group call. I show them how to build a personal brand on YouTube so they can monetize their practice of communication with the skill sets that they have in the business that they have on the back end. If you're interested in that, shameless plug, links in the description. I'm taking on more students as well, so tap in with me on that. But either way, you want to be able to analyze your recordings and record yourself consistently, right? And when you do this, when you run through this cycle consistently, you're going to see that your speech improves, right? The last thing that I'm going to leave you with in terms of what to do, listen to prominent speakers. This is so important. Communication is an art, it's a skill set. So you want to be able to listen to people who've mastered it. I used to listen to Steve Jobs a lot, how he presented himself, how he communicated to other people. Like I told you, I listened to Robert Greene. I used to not even just listen, but watch them. Watch how their body language is. Watch how they maneuver through conversations of their speech. Watch how they storytell. Understand storytelling frameworks. That'll be for another video, how to storytell, because if you can tell stories, you can literally dominate the world. The world is literally run on stories. Human beings are interested in stories more than they are simple information. So listen to prominent speakers and analyze how they speak, much like how you analyze yourself. This is why I say communicate like a boss. Literally, bosses communicate. There will be videos of them communicating to the masses. This is what you need to analyze to be able to communicate like a boss, right? The minute you start doing that, your whole life is going to change. You're going to be able to talk better with people. You're going to be able to have better conversations. You're going to be able to get your way. You're going to be able to be more persuasive. This is what most men are missing right now. Everyone's trying to get jacked, which again, I approve of because that was my original message, but nobody's trying to communicate better. Nobody's realizing that this is the skill set that's lacking in the world that's needed to be able to get what they want. This is the key to getting what you want. So do it. All right? Take these quick steps and actually implement them in your life starting today. Again, I appreciate you and I hope that this helped you a lot. But this is how you communicate like a boss. These are the initial steps that you need to take that I took when I found that kid in that classroom that was dominating conversations, that was getting his way, that was influencing people. I realized that I need to start communicating like a boss. And that's what I did. That's why I can be successful on YouTube. That's why I can be successful on any social media platform, because I know how to communicate. So I appreciate you. Share this with a friend who needs help with communication and the awareness that they need to communicate better. Rewatch this if you need to. Conquer the world, conquer your life, conquer communication, conquer everything. And I'll catch you on the next video.